do something. And we should start seeing content up there. I think I fixed the time just now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
I think I fixed the time just
Oh, now I can
Oh,
hear myself extra.
yep.
It's
Oh
one thing to
no, I want to
hear
mute.
yourself with, the 500 millisecond delay. It's another thing to hear yourself with a 2 second or a 1 second delay. That's just weirder.
It's too
Yeah,
much.
it's really bad.
That's really hard to really have to focus to not have that mess everything up. Okay. I think I have pushed all those buttons. All right. Woohoo! And hopefully the audio is just working properly. Okay.
I'm on the stream,
That
briefly at
sounds
least.
right. You're right. We heard me for a second through the stream, so I'm going to declare victory there. We did not hear you guys, but that's okay. All right. So
I could hear myself and then I muted.
very good. Then we have proof positive of that too.
I did not hear myself, and I muted as soon as I could to avoid it because I knew my voice was coming up.
It's really strange that I'm now getting to the point where I'm like, yeah, no, it's fine. It's just another sound in the world. It doesn't drive me crazy.
But you kind of have to, and you kind of have to be okay with it if you're going to, stream all the time. And
Exactly. But I'm getting there where I just like, yeah, it doesn't freak me out when I hear my voice now. Like when I was doing that video, even though it didn't have audio in the presentation, it does have audio.
Yeah.
And I had to listen to myself many times because there was a part where I say something in there, and then of course I was cutting a lot of my stuff out. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm still not quite used to seeing myself. Like,
Was that the first camera
yes,
done?
yes. Okay. Did it look all right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I haven't seen your office before.
Oh yeah. So you got to see the portion that I'm willing to show on camera.
Yes, Office does. Most people in those meetings do, turn on their camera, and I'm like, I have a camera. It's a really old Microsoft camera. It's okay, but I've looked at all the available angles from my desk and I'm just like, no. I have way too much office organizing to do before I can turn on a camera.
I am not ashamed to say that I have staged my office for that camera shot.
Right.
I have moved furniture and placed things to make that camera shot work.
Yep.
So, for example,
and
the
you'll
shelf
notice
on my
Javier had like a green screen.
Yep, he just got a green screen installed. And green screen's fine, but I've been watching lots of different people do these things in preparation for finally reaching this point where I would be able to have a camera and everything put together. And the more and more I did it, the more and more I was like, I don't like the green screen look personally. Like it's not my favorite look. And so I started trying to figure out, how do you get to a different look? And that's where I discovered the shallow depth of field lens, wide lens, and then practical lights behind you and appropriately staging, and then it can look pretty good. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I'm going to try to do that. That sounds like fun. And so yeah, you see, there are 3 lights in that shot that do nothing but make color. And I spent time with my kids where they would watch my stream. Turns out it's like an 8-hour private stream where they were joined in, but it's just because I left it running overnight accident. But Bradley was in there saying, oh yeah, I like this color, that color. And Heidi was like, oh, I kind of like the blue. And Brad's like, no, I think the yellow looks good with, and I was like, all right. So I just kept playing with the colors and until they were like, this looks good. And Bradley was like, yeah, Dad, you got to have a little bit of the microphone in the shot because that looks right. And
right.
I don't know. I have to be a little bit careful because he is 3 generations off of mine. And I might be targeting a generation or 2 back for the people that are on YouTube or for live streaming.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know if he could be like truly avant-garde, like truly next level. This is what the future holds.
Well,
Um,
microphone game VTubers are, they're very the microphone is very common there, I think.
yeah, and yeah, so but I was like, I could take it out because I can actually now get it out of the shot. I can get it in the shot. And he's like, no, I think it looks better in the shot. And things like that. I was like, yeah, okay, this is, it was fun. He had a great time helping me. So, when your kids can get into it, it makes it even more fun when you're like, yeah, okay, this is
Right.
a thing. Let's have some fun. Let me go ahead and bring up the slides here. We're at 31. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, we have a Ron and Zach just said, hey, so that's awesome. Great to see you guys here again. So yeah, I'm very glad to have that presentation done. It was like I texted Jenny when I was done with it. I said, I'm done. I'm very glad to be done, but I'm very glad to have done it as well.
Yeah. No, it
So
was good. It was. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the other presentations. So, but
I dropped
I
in for
did, it
all
was
the
very different.
transitions to make sure that I was warmed up for how Javier was going to transition
Yeah,
them.
good call.
So I was trying to drop in on the half hour because they were shifting on the half hour. So I'd get the end of somebody's presentation and a bit of the beginning. All of the other ones were exactly what they thought they would be. Technical presentations of their project.
Yep.
And so, which was like, yeah, it's great. And we'll submit WiX 4 for the next summit, I hope. WiX 4 will be like, yeah, we're going to talk about WiX 4 because it's, baked and you should be able to try to use it and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But this one I was like, I don't want to talk about WiX 4, but the .NET Foundation has taken feedback. Some of this was explicit feedback that I gave. So I feel like I should participate in that feedback, even though it was, I don't know if it was more work than I thought it would be, but it was plenty of work. I'm now digging out of. I'm behind on all kinds of things I have to go. Not behind. I need to go catch up on all the things that I shelved. But I tell you what, for you guys that were here, 45 minutes before, I was sitting there and I was trying to just kind of walk through, and I'm like, I cannot talk. I cannot tie these slides together. This is going to be an absolute train wreck. I was just like, what have I done? I clearly needed another day where all I did was just read a speech because I cannot connect anything right now.
Presentations are not easy. I used to do this a couple of jobs ago, and it shows if you're not prepared.
Yeah, and I was I was like, I thought I had it glued together, and it was just coming. It was like at the last minute when you're taking your balsa wood, bridge up to the weighing, and it just starts melting right in front of it. You're like, they didn't even put weight on the thing to measure how much it just starts melting. That's what I felt like. Everything was falling apart. And I was just like, okay. I just stepped back and I just read for a while out loud with my mic muted because I was in the green room too, because you're supposed to be there, half hour before. So I'm just reading. Just reading. I'm not even trying to look correct, any of that. I'm just reading. And then I'm like, all right, what's the transition word from one slide to the next? And I finally got my transition words from the slide. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. And that's why I made sure that I said, so Javier, how's it going? So that I could get that out first instead of him asking me a question. And I just need to get something out first. I knew I had to push everything out. And then once I started, it just kind of snapped. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. It just clicked right back into place and I was able to generally walk through it. And I was probably reading the intro a little bit more than I'd hoped, but I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. Zach, yeah. So so Sean put in the chat, it's the .NET Foundation Summit presentation. I did a presentation yesterday for the .NET Foundation Summit, and they are going to get the videos back so we can get them chopped up and stuff. And I want to get mine and put it actually up on my YouTube stream because, of course, I forgot to hit the record button on my side. Because if I hit record on my side, then I could have just because I want to actually replace the audio and put that back in because I should be able to splice that video back in and then go forward. So, and anyway.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, the basic introduction of the presentation was a video recorded in 2006
2006.
of the at the time current WiX virtual team, as it was called back then, including me, and everyone looks a lot younger than they do now.
Because we're almost 20 years younger. I mean, that's just crazy. 15. I mean, 15 years younger plus is like, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Jacob. Jacob's here. See, I knew if I waited 5 minutes to be there, and we had a fun little chat. So, yeah, it was, and that particular video is interesting. I don't think I brought it up in the presentation. It didn't quite slot in anywhere, but I'm too young to feel this old. Yeah. The that is an interesting video because it catches the end of the first generation of Wix developers. It's really before that first generation kind of disperses and goes different places, and the second generation starts, of which Bob is the pivot, I think, on the second generation, as well as Peter Marcoux.
Peter came a little later.
Maybe he was Gen 3.
And I were
you and J-Rock were the two that were that.
Yeah, but that's more of the pivot, right?
Yes.
We were both there in 2004.
Yeah.
Ish, but after Wix had first shipped open source.
Yes.
Missed it by a few months.
Yeah. Look who's still here. All right, let's go ahead and get this road on the show. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the WiX Online Meeting 240. This meeting is recorded for those of you that aren't with us right here, right now. What are we doing today? We're going to be looking at a lot of issues. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're doing triage, like we always do. And then we're going to do WiX v4 issue review, which we've been threatening to do for a while, and it's time. So we're going to go through all the open v4 issues and at least mention each of them. I want to skip over a bunch of them, just setting the stage here a little bit. I don't want to dig into each of them at this point in time. If whoever it's assigned to says, yes, that's on my radar, I am working on it, I know I am going to do that, then we will skip over it. And we will come back later at a time later where we'll actually dig into, are we really going to be doing this issue? But there's still time. So if there's an issue open, you're like, yep, that's still working on that. That's how we're going to go through the v4 issue review, so it does not take us all day. Hey, we have someone asking for help in that. How to copy a file directory dynamically install? That is a fantastic question to go send to the WiX users mailing list, or the GitHub discussions, or maybe even Stack Overflow if you can word it with all your details. We're not going to be able to answer the questions here, but we are going to go do triage. If Bob, you are ready?
I am ready.
Sweet. All right. I think I transitioned to that without hitting the... Anyway, whatever. We'll come back to the slide so you can see the beautiful slide that says triage. Anyway, starting at the top, allow MSI product version to be any valid WiX version. Did we talk about this already? I'm confused. No, we didn't. Assigned to me.
You put it into triage 2 weeks ago.
And then I did all this stuff in between. What was I thinking? Oh. Oh, I know what happened. I assigned this to me, and then I took it out of triage thinking, yes, and then I went, actually, maybe should we do this? And then I went, oh, and then it wasn't, and I forgot that I took it out of triage, so we didn't talk about it. So we should talk about this, because I think it's cool, but you guys end up in different spots on this, so I don't know where we are at basically the state of the world of this particular thing. Sean, you opened it. You want to describe what you're thinking here?
I'm thinking that the compiler is letting it through, and in general, the Windows installer will ignore all the fourth field. So it should be pretty easy to let that stuff through. I guess the harder part is figuring out what to do if like the first few fields are bigger than they should be, or if they're missing or something like that.
Are you saying that you could pass in 1.2.3.4-ABC plus 98765432110 and that
And you
compiles?
absolutely well, it won't. It'll compile. It doesn't bind. You'll get an error saying that's not a
Sorry.
valid MSI
Does it
version.
build?
No,
It,
you'll get an
no,
error
it
at
doesn't
bind time.
build.
Who specifically complains at bind time?
The bind database command.
Because it's validating?
Yeah, because it looks at the MSI version because it could have been a bind variable and or a.
Oh, right.
And it's complicated because it could have also been a what do we call them? A bind variable that's based off a file version or whatever, right? And
Yep.
it gets complicated. So that's where the final check is. And the point here is that, if we could let 4 versions plus all the labels through and put it in the MSI. So if you had a file, I don't know how you would get there. Anyway, you could do it. The question is, should we allow all the extra parts?
Only via an opt-in mechanism. Some kind of opt-in mechanism.
So
Otherwise, we should not allow bad data. Relying on the fact that MSI ignores the 4th field is, not, that doesn't mean, it's still bad.
I think this is kind of the crux of the issue, right? So I don't want to build another mechanism, like another command line switch or something else that you have to set to say allow technically legal but not exactly what the spec says to Windows installer, versions. I don't know how to word that. If we were allowed, I'd be like, yeah, you can put those kind of versions in MSI. It's all good, and then let it go through. And Bob's like, nah.
I mean, it's documented to ignore the 4th field, so I don't.
Yes.
Well, it is, but any other version in MSI is clearly documented as being numeric. So the idea that we can add dashes and pluses is it's counter to everything else in MSI.
It's very unlikely that we'd say, hey, did you know we're going to put dashes and a plus after the 4th version number? That they'd say, oh yeah, we expected that. Right. Not back in 97. 94.
Never was but a dream.
When it was designed in 94, implemented 97. Anyway.
Because back then, 4 version fields ought to be enough for anybody.
Yeah, and then they went off and did something weird with the first 2 parts of it and messed all that up. But
yeah.
Yeah,
I still don't understand that, but whatever.
I don't know. Anyway, I still think this is cool. The idea of it is cool, but that's about as far as I can go with it.
I'm not fine with it, but meh, whatever. If someone wants to do that, that's cool, but it can't happen accidentally, and that's a problem with, as you point out, the bound bind time variables.
Yeah,
they're bound to other things.
It's the delayed resolve variables.
Yeah. Well, those are special enough. They deserve a name. We should come up with a name for those because they're really cool.
Remembering it. Anyway, yes.
Yes. But because of that, it's way too easy for this kind of version to get in.
That's true. You could slip something around. Although I don't think we pull in the file version that's a string.
Sorry, no,
we only get the one
wouldn't
that's
come
the
in
number. But you could do it through a bind variable and yada yada yada. Anyway.
Oh, actually, that's interesting. Can a version info resource have them?
The string version can, the numeric one can't, and I don't know the specific names of those 2 differences. And I'm pretty confident that we read the numeric one, not the string one. But I'd have to go double check to be sure about that.
Yeah, no, I know they can appear in, like Explorer properties. So, anyway, because of that, because it's too easy to get a value like this, I think it should not be supported without some kind of explicit gesture, command line switch, or an attribute.
Yeah,
It could be in the language.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I don't want to add another switch. This is kind of like it's cute, but it's not worth it to do a lot of work for it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I would not go that far even, but yeah, I'm in that kind of a boat.
I mean, for me, this goes back to I don't think the compiler should be allowing stuff that the backend doesn't ever use, but I've lost that argument, so.
Well, this is just the MSI backend that has this restriction.
Well,
so it's the one that has to validate it. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same argument we got into the last time. Like the package is MSI. If you want to build something else, you should have a different element for your output.
Yeah.
And put your version on that new element that's your own.
Yeah. That's definitely where we differ in the design there. Yeah.
But also there's too much because of bind time variables, and I think a general direction the whole build pipeline should go in. We're going to have lots more stuff that gets through the compiler proper and can only be validated later at some point, whether it's the backend. And the backend is a natural place, right? Because the backend is where we put the output specific knowledge. So output specific validation, it's a natural place.
Yeah, and I've basically come to that same conclusion given the bugs that have slipped through in different ways through bind variables. Essentially, whenever bind variables used in the way we're like, oh, that can slip through. I agree, but at the same time, I attempted I'm trying to remember what I did recently. The bind time validation is it's an undertaking, I guess I would say. The bind time components are not organized in a way to do that sort of validation. So when we do such work, we need to think about it more holistically than what I was trying to do. We're just trying to like, oh, this should be straightforward. I will just add this test. It's much more intricate, I'm finding, than and I was surprised. I was like, so when we tackle the problem that you just raised, Bob, of doing more validation in the backend, particularly to catch like bind variables, things like that, we need to do so holistically. That's my own point.
No,
I don't know why I brought that up now.
Agree.
It just burned me recently enough that I remember the pain, not exactly what caused the pain, and solve that. So
yeah, and to be clear, I don't want the compiler to be completely dumb. Well, maybe, but I probably don't, because we still create libraries straight out of the compiler.
Correct.
So unless that changes, yeah, I don't want the compiler to be completely dumb. It should do sanity checking at least. And again, thinking holistically, maybe this is where we come up with a way to share that kind of validation where the output is known or can be specified.
Sure. All right, so this is cute, but not useful enough to get it over the line for V4.
I'd like to revisit it in V5.
Oh,
again,
all right.
When we're talking about this,
okay, fair
more
enough.
holistically.
All right, so then milestone V next, I think, and we will revisit it then. All right.
Okay, that works for me.
Unable to create new WiX project in Visual. I assume that's Visual Studio.
One hopes.
Guessing.
This is actually basically resolved.
Oh, yes, this. Yeah, so he had a very, very clean Visual Studio, and we are probably missing some set of components. that are necessary. I know Votive declares it needs the work editor, something
The
work
core editor.
yeah, core editor. That core editor, but apparently it needs more. What more that is, we'd have to go kind of work our way up. So I think
Actually, that's um,
that makes sense based on him installing Python, which probably brought in all this stuff, and then suddenly Wix started working. You're like, Python brought in whatever the things were that Wix that Votive needed to make it work.
yeah. I'm a little curious because the error message he's showing is Wix test action 1, and he says he picked setup project, but I'm wondering if it was a custom action,
project,
which would definitely require
Oh, that would definitely
the
require
language.
more. That's actually an interesting point too. We should probably capture that in this issue. That if you just install Votive and try to create you'll get a custom action template for C++,
Right.
and okay. Someone needs to go and sit and think about this for a while, because it's like, sorry, I didn't even finish that thought. It got so bad. If Votive comes with templates for C++ and C#, and I think even VB actions, which means technically it should say, hey, if you want to use this template, you're going to need C#, VB, and C++, which is then going to cause tons of stuff to get installed on your machine if it actually said you need to be able to have all those. And you might be like, I never built C++ custom actions. Why do I need all this C++ stuff installed? Anyway, that's what I say. This needs to be thought out, how many dependencies get added on top of that.
I thought Visual Studio tried to be helpful there, where if you tried to open a project that required components, it would tell you that.
I thought the components had to tell you what they needed, though. But
Well,
maybe it knows for CS Proj?
Yeah,
V6
CS
does.
Proj, it knows.
The V6 does for Votive itself, but I'm wondering if the templates aren't quite what that system is looking for. As I recall, the C# template is pretty basic. Like recognizably a C# an old school C# project. I'm just wondering if that's, if there's something missing or something extra that's confusing the Visual Studio magic there. It could be, I could have brought up a red herring just based on the name action.
Yeah.
Because he says it's creating a normal MSI project. So.
Of course, they drop an image and not the text. Whatever. Job control 5. Yeah, this doesn't provide enough information to know. Anyway, there's an investigation for someone wants to go dig in and make Votive automatically install the appropriate thing, all of the things it needs, as opposed to the things that it chooses to right now. That can go in Votive, and I don't know what milestone we put Votive in, but it doesn't have to be in V4.
Has its own.
Good, excellent. Wix Toolset 2019 extension doesn't install and throws error.
I actually closed this.
Oh. VS Hive stub. Yeah, okay. Yeah. This looks weird. I agree. I saw that. I was like, I don't know what this is. Yep.
I mean, as usual, we have no control over V6 installation.
Yeah. See, that's one of those. It's like, honestly, take this error message to Visual Studio and have them take a look at it. Because it's their installer and we can't do anything with it, unfortunately. All right, so I snuck this one in this morning as things I was trying to get done and everything else. This is a new whip for V4. This has been a thing I've been poking at for quite a long time, trying to figure out what to do with heat in general in V4. And I haven't written the whip. I just tried to get the issue in here real quick. But I will go write the document that lays out the where I think this is going to go. But anyway, the big thing is heat is, I've disliked heat for a very long time. It's an interesting attempt. It has a lot, experimented with a lot of different ideas. And I think a lot of those ideas have not aged well in the end. And it hasn't had a lot of care and attention over time, so it's aged very poorly. So the net of that is that I don't want to bring heat deeper into the Wix tool set, like by making it a Wix command, like basically all the other XEs have turned into, and instead keep it isolated in its own thing so that we can then obsolete it and move forward with a more a new design for the way that we want to tackle harvesting. So I think we really need to rethink the whole problem because it's just simply too big an issue. It keeps coming up, and heat is a problem in that space. So the that's why I call it the organized obsolescence of it in V4. It'll still be there. People will be able to migrate from V3, and uh, that'll be about it. That's really all I want to say for heat. And I'm trying to now write down the details of where we put it. So that's what this whip is all about. Needed to open it for a while because heat.exe has been hanging around out there as this weird thing without a clear vision of how it moves forward. So that's what I'm doing with this one. And I've already signed up myself to tackle soon.
So the whip will outline places it could go?
Yeah, I've had a couple, and I've removed a couple ideas, and my current thinking, just preview for what will be written in text, is one, definitely want to move the Wix harvesting targets out of Wix.targets. So at the beginning of V4, I already isolated them, one to shrink the Wix.targets when I was converting it to common targets a long time ago. And now, but there's still like a direct import inside Wix targets. So one is to move that out, and to do so then to make it a NuGet package so that you can just reference the heat NuGet package and it will hook all those targets back up for you. So you won't have heat built in, but you will be able to add a NuGet package and have all your MS build stuff hopefully just work like it used to before.
Okay, so it'll be just like any other like extension NuGet package.
Right, except it's not an extension. It's
right.
Yeah, it's just the heat things. It's not an extension. It adds the targets and things that you need for all the MS build things to work. And also that could be the way that we give people heat.exe. I don't know. Getting heat.exe out to people is the part that I have not completely solidified, and that's where I'm going to put it in the whip and be like, okay, here it is. What do we want to do with this standalone executable? So,
but you're talking about the MS build targets, like those would quote unquote just work.
You add a NuGet package and those will just work, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think anything less than that is overly hard, and we already ship NuGet packages like this, so that seems very straightforward.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just I'll look at the whip when it comes out, but I'm fine with an approach that gets the MS build targets, back to the way they work in V3, because as we saw when Visual Studio went 64-bit, that works. Calling the targets directly from your own targets is what didn't work because of the change to 64-bit. So, the making the way that you should do things smooth is, a nice target, I think. If the actual heat targets are still available, I kind of like, I would shrug. I don't, we provided the items to do it smoothly. So I'm hoping that's like the 80% scenario for people using heat.
So I think I know what you're saying, but also I think even this plan will still let people directly reference the targets. I don't think it will break them. So
okay.
they'll still be able to do that behavior that you don't want. I think that will also just work if they do the package reference to the NuGet thing. So,
well, sorry, to be clear, I was mostly referring to heat.exe. People who run heat.exe and like a before build target, I'm like, you can do that, but you're tying yourself to a particular implementation. So if you do that, you're going to have to change somehow, hopefully minor, in V4. You tie yourself to an implementation. That's your fault.
Right. It is.
It's the right, the natural way, then things just keep working.
Yeah, like the that's gonna hurt. Okay, so Zach, actually, this is great. So I assume I was looking away. I
It's not
assume that's
great that it's going to hurt, just to be clear.
no, sorry. No, yes, that is not what I meant. What's the case that you have there? Or maybe we should take it offline. So like this is basically gonna be a lot of discussion around this whip and getting this into the right place. Because if I could, I would just nuke heat like out of V4 and we just go on. But it's clear that we can't, which is actually why we need to bring it more in. But we didn't do that in V4, so I'm just trying to juggle all of that around. Calm harvesting. Yeah, well, the heat file thing should still work. That's in there.
Yeah, we're not losing any functionality.
Yeah, and you'll still be able to get heat.exe. Exactly how I had this the final part where I'm going to put it in. But anyway,
He
so
might have been referencing that you want to pull it out of V5.
I want to replace the scenario completely in V5. Yes. So my hope is that there's a V4 release where we put it and we're like, okay, here it is the end of V4. Here's how it will work in V5. Like it's kind of the direction I want to go, but have to solve the problem.
Deprecated versus obsoleted.
Right. This is the organized obsolescence, and then at some point it is deprecated, but I can't say what that is. We just have to sit down for a while and think about, and here's where we're going. But my gut does not tell me that we're going to go where we're at now. So that's
code generation is always replaced at some point. Code generation is, a relatively straightforward, cheap way of getting to some, desired point of automation, but it never lasts. It's always replaced.
Well, we'll see.
I'm talking generally.
It kind of sounded like you were talking about taking it out and not replacing it.
No, the harvesting scenario, that's what I said. The core piece here is we need to internalize the harvesting scenario. When we started with I'm gonna say V2. In WiX V2, there was no scenario. Everything was very, very explicit. And we've been slowly working our way to where things can be more calculated for you. The WiX toolset can make more decisions for you. And the harvesting has been a place that was thrown into V3. And it was always, well, this should be a one-time code generation tool. You should run it and then just be done with it. And almost everybody uses it as a run it in and build every single time. And that it's just, we've not internalized that. It's not, the tools and none of the processes are working well in that. Well, they can work well in certain scenarios, things like that. We've been kind of grafting it on, and I want us to really absorb the scenario because it's clear it's not going away. And what we have right now is more painful than it should be, and it goes through a tool that is needs to be re-implemented from top to bottom. So it's essentially all kinds of bad space, so we need to target it, hopefully in V5. Until then, we can't get rid of heat because it's clearly really important to people. That's just the way it goes.
And to be clear, what I said about CodeGen is the fact that heat is external to the build, right? It's always been something that happens before you start compiling something else. And so it generates code. But I've done some fascinating stuff that I can't talk about in the V4 build pipeline. The new extensibility model in V4 allows you to do a whole lot of stuff, including generating symbols on the fly. And I don't personally care about heat, but doing it in the pipeline is definitely the way to go.
Well, there are downsides. But anyway, it needs a lot of design. It needs a lot of work. It's not going to fit into V4. And we need to have a plan for how it goes forward. And because of V4's change to WiX.exe, because the change to WiX.exe, heat.exe has always been this like, well, how do you get this exe? And so that's what this is a lot. That's kind of been the crux of the problem that I've been thinking about, and I want to distill into this and how we're moving forward with heat. We use harvesting as part of our standard build. Yep. That's what a lot of people do. Yep, and it's driven because it's easy to forget to run these things. The scenarios make sense. The problem is that we've not prioritized the scenario, the implementations that are provided to make those scenarios solid, right? There's all these kinds of kooky things that you as the consumer have to deal with, and we need to solve better. I argue we need to solve better inside WiX proper, and heat is not the way through that. Its design and its implementation is not the way to the other side. That's not to say that the scenarios that are trying to be solved are wrong. It's going the other way around. It's more that we need to adopt those scenarios more deeply in the tool set. And heat has always been this thing that got created on the side as a experimental project by Derek to just say, hey, look what I can do, and look at all these layers and pieces and all these things that I can glom on together to make it work. And oh, look, this is a great use of the code model that Reed implemented that's based off the C# code model. And when you look at all those things, they're all gone. Like they're all deprecated spaces inside WiX today. We need to bring it in and make it more real in V5.
Yeah, when did the code model come and basically go away?
3, but 3 is tricky because 3 is so long.
No, I mean in terms of .NET time.
Oh, .NET time? I don't know.
I mean, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still their framework, but .NET Core doesn't have it.
Yeah. So, and code model isn't in WiX 4, for example. Except it's privatized inside heat, so that heat can keep working.
Right. Kind of is.
Kinda, but anyway, it's just layer on layer on layer of structure that is not the direction to go. So the scenarios that Zach brings up are things that we need to tackle. We need to tackle them better, and heat is not the long-term solution. But we don't have a long-term solution in V4, so we have to keep it going as we move forward into the brave new world of things that do work really well in WiX, predominantly around our new acquisition in CI systems, which is super duper fantastic. We need to make sure that you can at least do something for heat in that space. That's predominantly
NuGet packages.
You can get a NuGet package, because that is Microsoft's solution that we have adopted for this particular problem. So anyway, this has been sitting on my back plate for a long time, just going, what am I doing here?
Yeah, the fact that we don't have an installer anymore, or we don't have to have an installer anymore, kind of, there's a bunch of little tools that don't have a home anymore because they don't fit into the NuGet model.
Right, and all right, so Bob's going to make me write this entire whip right here in front of all of you, but his point that we don't have a setup right now for WiX is actually one of the key things that I've been struggling with, going, well, maybe we need to bring one back so we can put heat back in there so you can have a way of getting heat. And I was like, well, really, just for heat? Maybe, and maybe we will, and maybe we're going to put Wix.exe.
Don't forget Theme Viewer.
Where's Theme Viewer?
Well, we definitely have Theme Viewer, but you see, and here we get to an interesting difference. Theme Viewer is a tool that a developer uses at a design time. They do their work, they get a result, and then they check that in.
It's not a runtime tool.
That works great. You install it, you use it on your dev box, you don't put it on your build machine. There's no point in putting heat or Theme Viewer on your build machine. Heat, on the other hand, is supposed to be that way. Developer runs it, you use it, you get a result, you check it in. But people are using it as a build tool, so now you have to install it on the build machine, and that breaks down where I was at with the installers that we currently have slated inside V4. So it's just one more example of the pieces that I was trying to figure out, how do I want to put all these together? So it's it exposes all these delayed decisions in V4 that are now coming home to roost because they have to be solved. And as I get a moment to think about them, and this actually kicked off based off of a Wix users thread where somebody was asking correctly, and I think it's actually the same guy that found some issues. Anyway, basically asked, hey, where is heat? And it wasn't in preview 0. And I sat there going, well, we have to solve this for preview 1. And so I just started writing this down in between me going, when am I going to do the cab spanning and when am I going to do the patchwork, which are the other two very large things that have to get tackled. And I was basically not wanting to start either of those because I had this presentation that I did yesterday and I had a deadline before that. And so I was doing small things, not big things. Anyway, there you go. Way too much background on the why things are going. And Zach, I'm glad to hear that you are either already in the same space or have come to the same space that basically says, yeah, we need to solve a lot of this problem properly. So this will be fun. I've put this in V4 Preview 1. It will be solved before V4 Preview 1 goes anywhere. So yeah, good stuff. Bob has removed trash. Cool. So from here, if I think that's all the issues, right?
Yep.
Yes, it's nice and clean. It's kind of nice to see it clean these days. I think that means let's switch over to all of the V4 issues. So I'm going to refresh this in case any new ones got popped up. Yep, I figured. Got added to the list. So here we are with 50 issues open in V4, and what are we? About 45 minutes in. All right, that's fine. Let's go ahead and just, like I said, I just kind of want to go over the top of them. If you're already working on it, that's fine. And I think the first one is Jacob. Jacob's here. I have to kind of fill a little space and whatnot, I think. And I know Jacob did work on this, the ability to access persisted variables. And I know there's lots of discussion about how to implement it. And the original idea that I had in my head of accessing the RSM file from one burn to another, which sounded terrible and not a good idea at all, and why I was really worried about this feature, was shifted to trying to put things in the registry key, I think. But Jacob, I'm kind of filling space. I'm mostly just saying, hey, are you here to, are you still doing this? Yeah, so
Burn is storing the data in the registry today.
Okay.
But it's trying to remember if it was like there's butil methods to help you access that data. But there's no way in the authoring to try to use that stuff.
Right.
So like a custom BA could access the data, but if you want to use it for cool stuff like automatically populating a variable with the value from the previous version, then that's not.
You need a custom BA.
Yeah.
Today you automatically get persisted variables when they're persisted, right? But only for the same version of the bundle, or the same bundle ID, I guess.
I'm not sure I understand Jacob's question.
The registry keys were added.
I mean, Jacob's the one that implemented storing the data. I haven't really done any work on this.
The registry didn't contain the vars in 3x. Okay.
Right, that was RSM.
Yep, that's what I thought. Yeah, the resume file contained them.
A custom BA can do all this. The moving the data to the registry means a custom BA can do all this.
All right. So at a high level, I'm mostly just looking for Jacob. Are you still pushing this forward? And it's just a yes that says yes. We'll work with Sean because Sean's in burn to kind of finalize whatever's being done here. Yes. All right. Great. So we will keep this in V4, and you guys will move that one forward. Pyro throws an MSI exception when patch. This is patching. I am going to do this, sadly. Burn API documentation.
So this feature was supposed to be use the same process the DTF is using to produce its help file and do the same stuff for burn. That's what this feature is about.
Yeah, okay. Sandcastle.
So basically, I'm blocked on this issue until the DTF documentation is fleshed out.
Right. Okay. But you still want to do that in V4? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Sandcastle bad. Wixel files should be able to include other Wixel files. Bob. 4667.
This would be cool. It's not critical. It's not a regression. I do not anticipate getting to this before preview 1.
What about v4 RTM?
No.
Okay. I don't know if that's a thing. I just thought I'd throw it out there and see if anybody reacted. The ideal is, I did that backwards. The ideal is that there is no more feature work after preview 1.
Correct.
That's the current plan of record. We can change that plan of record if we choose to, but the current plan of record is the only things that are going into after preview 1 are people used it and it didn't work, so we fixed it.
Yep. No, that's why my answer did not change.
Yep, and your answer was completely in line with that. So does that push this to V next and we move on?
So it's labeled breaking change. That's wrong.
Okay.
I don't know what jerk labeled it with breaking. Oh, it was me.
Yeah.
So I just removed that label. It could go into a 4X. I think it could be additive.
Okay.
So yeah, it's.
I don't know how to think about V4X yet, though. So okay.
Sorry, it is not a breaking change. Therefore, the traditional it must happen in a .0 does not apply.
I understand what you're saying.
So in Semver terms, it could go into a minor release.
Right, because it's additive. Okay.
Yeah. Now that said, I personally don't want there to be a 4X, so I would vote V next. Also, unless someone else is interested in this, this is not a priority for me. So
yeah, okay. We need to. Yeah, that's an interesting distinction for us to try to come up with a way of organizing next release features that do or do not require a major release change, a major number. Just figuring out the correct way to. I don't know if it's a tag.
Yeah. Well, we have
that's what the breaking
tag.
change is supposed to be.
Okay, then we should be using that.
Then it's a question
I hope we're using it well.
Milestones we have.
Yeah. Okay. Then I hope we're using it well.
We're probably not.
That's my fear.
We relied on V4O
yes.
as being our breaking change tag.
Okay. Well,
before
all right.
we had breaking change tag.
Well, then we'll keep that in mind. All right. So this will move to V next, and it's not marked breaking change. So if someone was like, you know what, I really would like to slip this into a 4.1 or a 4.2 or whatever if we ever do those things, that we can go have that discussion at that time, whatever that would mean. All right. I'm in the same boat on this one. When I took this issue initially, I thought it was related to cab spanning. And when I started looking at and organizing my notes for cab spanning, I realized that this is not about cab spanning. This is actually about volume spanning. So volume spanning is when you have, well, in this case, they talk about very large DVDs, which are 8 gigs or something. I forget. I don't even know what the dual layer is anymore, but medias that are much larger than a cab. So the idea of being able to say, take all my content and then compress it into n number of cabs, because cabs can be at max 2 gigabytes, and then split those cabs appropriately over 8 gigabytes of space. So this is actually media volumes, and I don't even know that media template is the right way to implement it, given the way that media template works right now, because media template operates within the sizes of 2 gigabytes in MSI right now. So it's like, net. This is an enhancement. I almost took the enhancement off because I was like, no, this is just cab spanning being broken. I was like, whatever. Then I dug into the whole thing. I was like, so I'm not particularly interested in doing this in 4. And I think this can move to V next, unless someone really thinks that I'm wrong and we need to do this multi-volume stuff now.
No, I agree that media template is really incompatible with volumes.
Yeah.
And it should do more to prevent that assumption. Like, I think today it accepts volume label, which is completely antithetical to multiple volumes. So I don't know what was being attempted there, but I think it's wrong.
that. I mean, media template is very tied to the MSI concept of media table, and I don't know how. Yeah.
Well, so I would also back it up and say we need a more holistic approach, including moving some of this stuff out of the authoring and into more of the concept of a back-end specific build, where you can build your thing once. We see this with some projects that use WiX outs, where you build and link once and then you bind multiple times. This would solve the problem today we have with bundles getting a new bundle ID every time they're generated.
If you're trying to organize them for a DVD and a CD?
More like media and download only.
Oh, yeah, we have a hack for bundles that works, but where you just copy the exe and you don't have to do anything else. But yeah, okay. Yeah, this is, I remember you talking about this, the whole concept of this release concept, like having a noun inside WiX for release stuff. So, all right, so I think this ends up underneath that umbrella. It definitely feels like it's more in that umbrella of, hey, let's imagine how releases should work holistically and then do that, as opposed to, hey, let's just build a package with a bunch of, cabs and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so if nobody's arguing, that's not going to make V4. I will have one later about cab spanning. There is still one there for that. WiX 392 IO exceptions ending. Oh, yeah.
Can we put those in 4x instead of vnext if no one wants to do them?
Sure.
Like, I'd rather vnext only have issues that we're actually planning on doing.
Okay.
I want to go the opposite way, just to be a little contrarian, because I like that. I want vnext to be clearly the things that we have to work on.
Wait, isn't that what Sean just said?
Is it? Sorry.
Yeah. If no one wants it, if no one is planning on doing it, it shouldn't go into vnext.
Sorry, this is something.
Oh,
I don't think.
No, okay.
I don't think. I don't think it's that we
then.
don't want to do this. I'm saying this is the kind of thing that requires the brain trust to or a subset thereof to spend some time. So like I'm interested in the concept of moving all of this kind of stuff out of the authoring proper and into, like Rob said, the release concept.
So I'd like to use the WIP required label for that.
Well, that's true. This requires
Oh, sure.
However this has been done, this would definitely need a WIP required.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just don't want, I don't want, so again, with the way we've used milestones in the past, we put all of the breaking changes into V4.0 and stuff that wasn't a breaking change into, first 3.x and for a while now 4.x. So I was using vnext as these are big things we need to look at holistically. But I guess we've also been treating it as breaking change. We're not doing it in 4.0, therefore. So yeah, WIP required is probably better, right? We can scan for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then where does it go?
Well, I would argue it has to go in vnext because this isn't something we're going to do in a minor release.
Okay.
Unless
no.
It's more likely that it would be a breaking change.
Yeah, this is going
to. So I'll add that label as well.
This is going to be big. Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple issues around that release thing, and that's one of those tricky parts. You're like, a couple of these things. Let's like tie them all together into a nice little bow and say, this is this concept that we think we've distilled from all these little issues or big issues, as the case may be.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the IO exceptions blowing up the build. I made a change low level to try to wrap anything that used the standard file system accessor to have some retries on it. Bob, were you thinking about doing? Do you want to continue to dig into this one?
It seemed to me that the way V4 is implemented, the retries that you added are sufficient.
That's assuming everything uses the file system object.
Okay.
Like I did not go and do the validation that everything used it. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, that's what I should say. I didn't go and validate that. Yes, everything isn't. There's like no errant file.copies floating around somewhere. I didn't go and check that at all.
Okay. I will therefore keep this to do that investigation.
Yep, that's fine.
I think between the proper use of intermediate folders and the retries that you added, we should be as good as we can get, given the fact that antivirus is still plaguing build systems everywhere.
Okay, so all right, you're going to keep it before. Native version resources tools do not match the installer version. This is mine. It's a placeholder for what am I doing with the installer. Mostly, every time I come to this, I sit, go, what am I doing with the installer? Create separate feed for minor releases, as well as the v4 feed can't be parsed, are basically carry-ons to this. What am I doing with the installer and how are we distributing it? So essentially all of these kind of go together in that one bucket, but are different pieces of that. So I keep them as separate issues. Enhance WiX utility user in element to include comment. Was this done? Or I don't know. Ron, you still here? I hope. I gotta fill space here. So this was cool. I think this is one of the things. Yeah, so Ron did create a pull request, but it's not tied here. So, all right, so don't know where that's out. Doesn't look too hard. Check it out. So Ron
I know he was working on end-to-end tests.
End-to-end tests for it. Those would not be as easy to implement as just shoving the code in there. So that is interesting. Yep.
Although
still
theoretically,
working on it.
One
Fantastic.
of the tests that you ported, Sean, was for the user creation custom actions.
Yeah, so it's a little harder than just pushing code, but not as hard as having to create your own infrastructure.
Right, adios, right. Jacob. Thanks for joining. We already got through your issue. You may leave now. Feels like old school triage. We had that when I was in office a long time ago. You'd have to be there for your issues, and when you were done, the dev manager would be like, all right, we're done with you. You can leave now. You're like, thank God, I go back and fix the bugs it just gave me. Anyway, so it's great. Ron says he's still working on it. That's good. Cool. We will continue. Hope we see that. Burn support sideloading Apex packages. Yes, it should.
And this bug is so old that they're called Apex packages.
Yeah, that's true. They're called MSIX now. Yeah, this would be great.
Yeah, I agree it would be great, and I do not believe I'm going to have time to do the significant work that's involved.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that. All right, so off to V next. Probably needs a whip required on it, probably.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right, very good. We're getting the hang of this. Update error message for ensure WiX tools installed. This is me doing votive stuff around WiX v4. No big. I found this issue. I was like, great, that'll be my placeholder. Remind me to do all that. Install message references options button even when suppress UI is yes. 5624, Bob.
Yes. This one is interesting. It was basically
you don't have to tell us what it is if you just want to tell us that yes, you're doing it or not.
Okay.
Unless you really want it, unless you really want to dig into it.
Well, I do tend to do that. I will keep this for a slightly bit longer period of time. If again, it needs investigation whether the CMutl stuff that Sean added way back when could be used to do this. I suspect the answer is maybe at best, but
okay,
I'll give it another cycle.
All right. This isn't assigned to anybody. Local user created by MSI package is absent after major upgrade. Not being assigned to nobody is tricky. It's probably not happening in 4 unless someone's planning to pick it up soon.
This is not a minor.
I think this is a very large challenge given the way that component rough counting is being done in this scenario inside the Windows installer, right? That kind of rings a bell.
I agree.
So do we flip this from bug to whip required and remove documentation? I don't know why it says documentation. And then move to V next?
Nobody's working sorry, on I'm waffling on the remove bug. I think it's still probably a bug. It's a bug that requires,
Yeah, I don't think
design.
I don't think we're using bug anywhere. It's kind of like this really ancient hangover. I think we just use
Yeah.
enhancement at this point for new features, and then everything else is, well, obvious it's a bug. It doesn't work right. At least that's what whoever opened it would say.
Well, I still like the label.
Oh, see, I
Plus,
kind of
it's
want
red and
yeah, I kind of want
short.
to burninate that label, but anyway, sorry, Stack Overflow reference.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, I don't think anybody's. I've been trying to like see if anybody's stepping on it. Yeah, so Ron's saying he's working on some local user issues. I don't think this is necessarily about local users. It's more about reference tracking, the behavior of the component states when doing a major upgrade in this way. I think the Windows installer is not reporting them in a way that makes writing extensions easy or writing custom actions easy. So this is probably a very systematic challenge, low-level challenging problem to solve.
Well, it's low level because this is a commit CA. This is one of those we have conflicting goals, and it might not be entirely possible to solve both goals. Implement.
Yes.
So,
yuck. Yuck, and
this is definitely a
yuck.
whip required.
Okay. Definitely whip required. But it's not assigned to anybody, so MSI.
Unless someone volunteers, it should.
Not uninstalled bug. Yeah. I think we're gonna live with this one another round.
I think we have to.
WiX 311 standard BA capitalism. So sorry, VNext and whip required, right? Bob? That's where it goes. Okay, great. Moving on, 5761, WiX 311 standard string capitalization.
Yes, so
Okay.
this is another one that's in 4.0 because it was a quote unquote breaking change. It's not a breaking change really. It kind of is. It would mean that the English strings and the extensive set of localized strings we have would diverge. So that's kind of why it's in in 4.0.
Does it stay? That's really the important part.
So if we limit it to WiX standard BA, it doesn't matter because WiX standard BA strings are not, we don't have any localized WiX standard BA strings, unfortunately, or fortunately in this case, because it means we can, change them up a bit. The only localized strings we have for WiX standard BA are for the prereq BA. So if we limit it to WiX standard BA, we can keep it. And this is something I would get to.
I don't have strong opinions any which way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
WiX toolset does not install targets in the Microsoft Build Tools 2017 folder. This is a documentation thing for V3, isn't it?
Yeah, basically this is, well,
5804.
That's how it started.
Is it how it started? How's it going?
This is the, hey, look, you need to, back when 2017 came out, we had to change the templates. Yeah. And yes, we have all of these. Someone actually wrote them up. So maybe, hey, this is documentation, right?
At this point for 2017, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like, we didn't do it. 2017 is way gone now, so...
But the same thing applies to VS 2019 and 2022 and...
Oh, okay. But...
If you haven't... See, this is the problem we have with... Remember how Votive installed the forwarding targets?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
No longer installed?
Yes.
Without those, you need to make these changes to your WiX proj.
Right.
So this is not a 4.0 bug. At this point, this is not a 4.0 bug. It is a...
Web bug? Doc bug?
It's a doc bug. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Or we say, okay.
Documented. Success. Thank you very much, Cameron 314.
Pie.
Oh, Bob. I have no strong opinions on this at this point.
I will keep it.
Okay. WiX Quiet Exec Inc. 5818. WiX Quiet Exec incorrectly assumes Unicode output on first byte. Yep, I do know it does that. Is this staying?
I do not anticipate getting to this.
Okay, great. I think it goes into V next, and someone can take a swing at it. Yeah, funky little things. Restart does not work on non-elevated burn installers on Windows 2019. Oh yes, this.
Yeah, this is
6145.
non-trivial. This is non-trivial. It's definitely WIP required.
Yeah.
And because of the security implications, it's already labeled WIP required.
Yes,
because of the security implications, I don't think it's something that can slip in. This would be great, but again, I don't anticipate having the cycles to do something this big before preview 1.
All right.
I might get to it.
Well,
you want to leave it in preview 1 and take it?
Yeah, we can. If we can give it. I mean, Sean, you can always say, "I'm not going to get to this later," or we can say like, "Yeah, it's going to have to land to V next." It's kind of where we're at.
I mean, if you want me to take it in that case, then okay, but I don't know whether I'll get to it or not.
I'm saying I won't. So if you want to leave it on the preview 1 table, then it should be gently reminded by assigning it to you.
That's true. In the end,
I don't want to leave it unassigned.
No, it can't stay unassigned.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
To be fair, I'm more worried about these next two having solutions than I am Server 2019. .NET Core and the conditions for handling .NET Core, or what is now .NET.
I never heard.
I know.
I mean, we asked them. We tried to give them a heads up, and we were asking them whether that was something they were going to pick up, and it sounded like it was, but they never responded like when they're going to do it. So
one of the people we were talking to no longer works at Microsoft, so that's not helpful.
That doesn't help.
It could be that the people were like, "Hey," and like, that mail address no longer resolves.
I mean, that's another thing that I might get to. It really depends on how long it takes for you to do your stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we go. I don't know if V4 could go without it at this point.
I completely disagree with that.
Okay.
V4, based on the fact that .NET, Core, modern .NET, changes every month. The approach. Let me back up. That doesn't really matter. That complicates things, but at the end of the day, the we can't ship without it is kind of bogus, because one of the things we spent a whole lot of pain on was being able to rev the extensions, among other things, separately from the rest of the tool set.
That's true.
If this is the only thing that's left for 4.0, I would absolutely ship 4.0 without it. There's only so much we can do. The team made some changes, bad changes, not that they're strangers to that. I don't know. I just, the idea that we can't ship without it, I think, is false. Yeah, it holds us hostage to stuff that we've provided in the past.
It's true.
We should have a solution. I don't disagree with that, but the whole, we have to do it is it's unreasonable to, it's a part of it is this is the .NET team just dumping the problem, creating the problem, and then dumping it on other people to solve. So just as a whole general, open source maintainability thing, I reject the concept of, we have to solve it. It would be good if we did, but they no longer appear interested. So I don't know, maybe we need to ship without it so people can see the problem beyond what they've already demonstrated in 3x.
Your point that we can ship the extension without having to ship the core toolset again is a good one.
Yeah.
As long as that, and that's got to be true, right, Sean? Like, we don't want to have to change the engine just to detect .NET Core. So no, and we won't bundle extensions, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna leave this as a special case and leave it unassigned for now, and we will see if we can find some people again in a little bit. How far? We're going to do one page today. We're going to do these first 25, I think, today. Unhelpful behavior when including multiple BAs. 6305. Bob.
Well, I took it, and then a week later, Sean made it really complicated.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
I made it. What do you mean?
The comment you added, well, now a year and a half ago, about how you couldn't make it happen with a test. Like, well, that's what I was looking for, is a test. And I just haven't gone back to look at what you did. So,
oh, wrong one. I wish it was empty.
I'll keep this.
Okay.
For now. It is low priority for me.
All right. New minimum OS for V4 documentation.
Well,
I think we should keep this open, even if it doesn't stay with Bob. And we need to put this in the right place. And before this is the website is decided, which is where it goes.
Right.
Now this one I'm a little more curious about. Document all public types and members.
I suggest making a lot of stuff internal.
Okay. Oh.
That was mostly a joke to solve the problem of needing to create public documentation.
Yeah.
I think we're probably not that far off right now.
If you ignore the
in terms of
certainly closer than we were before. Data is still not going to be covered hardly at all.
Okay, but it's going to be minimal reference documentation.
Okay, like most of the symbols have no documentation on them.
That's problematic.
Well, yeah, it's a lot, and a lot of it was generated from XSDs of days gone past, so it's a lot of content there.
And the downside is, well, there are two downsides. One, we don't have a managed API build solution yet. And the second is, if we did, it would be based off of doc comments, which means we'd have to rev the code to update the documentation.
True.
It would be no functional change, but if we do it right, but it would still require code changes and depending on how we implement the build solution for the managed API, it might mean that we would have to actually, rev our NuGet packages, which seems bad. It might be that documentation via doc comments is not the way to go.
Sure. I also don't know how much value documentation in general is going to add on top of all the symbols, for example.
Yeah.
Sure, but 99% of the time it's this is the file symbol, and here's the name field on it. And you're like, thanks, I knew that.
Right, right.
Now the extensibility is a little more interesting, and that has better coverage because that's something that, as an extension writer, you use, and then you override the values and being able to see the doc if it was available inside Visual Studio is, yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
certainly, you can see that has more value, and that's where we have a bunch of things. I think some of the output objects, or most of the output objects, have data. Like if you open up the data thing and you use it to open a Wix PDB or whatever, I think you get help on that. But when you get a symbol, it's just like, yeah, it's the file symbol. There's no doc comment on that.
Right, right.
So,
Well, it's basically down to. Are you saying that the symbols are self-documenting?
I don't know. I would question the value in the time spent documenting them.
That's
Because if they're not self-documenting, they're pretty close.
yeah,
And
yeah.
in a case that there's not, is so rare, I'm not sure I would look for a dot comment to tell me that it was different.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
I'm not sure I would expect a dot comment to be the thing that's like suddenly appear and be like, ta-da, I've saved you from this one thing that was a little different from the others.
So in general, I think, one, we have the big gaping maw of unknown work required to get documentation ready for preview 1 and then RTM. This would fall into that bucket. I'd be fine with saying we don't need all that we're going to get done by preview 1. We're still expecting to build between preview 1 and RTM,
Yep.
so therefore, I think it's fine to say that we can hit the highlights in preview 1 and then finish what we're going to finish by RTM. Again, I'm a little annoyed or concerned because it means without rubbing the code, we can't further update the documentation after RTM. So that kind of feeds into the, okay, so what's our solution for building managed API documentation, and can we do it without requiring that we actually produce a build, certainly produce a release, but even producing a build, so that we don't need to rev NuGet packages just for documentation, except if that's how you get documentation into Visual Studio. And I believe it is.
So what are we doing with this issue? We're keeping v4 as a review all public types, or just review?
Well, I think we have to, once we have a plan for API documentation in general, DTF, burn, so forth.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Then
That's
review.
Fair. Yeah,
then
right.
we have to review and
right.
see what our gaps are.
There's enough spaces in this that are not filled in that you're right. We can keep this around as it is, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Blair, I don't think said hello. I don't know if he joined us somewhere along the line, but he has the BA request gets dropped when UI is shown on engine thread. Sean, you might be able to speak to this in lieu of that.
I mean, if he doesn't do it, then I'll do it.
Okay. Then we'll keep it there, and hopefully Blair's like, oh yeah, I just totally forgot. I'm getting, or maybe he's like, yeah, I've almost got it done. Who knows? Well, hopefully he'll come back. Burn does not repair an MSI when slipstreamed with a minor update patch. 6350. I need to get better at saying the numbers.
Yeah, I should probably look at that, huh?
All right. I think that's where we're going to finish off today. That's 25. That's half of them. Although some of them have gone away, I think. I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So we got through the first page. There's 50, 25 per page. Hit F5. I think we made one. Whoa, did we really make 5 go away?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So we will pick up after the one that I forgot that we just talked about, and I should have remembered before we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to this page. There we go. 6350. We will pick up after 6350. Probably next week. We'll go ahead and finish this up. Not next week, in 2 weeks. We'll finish that up. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. What am I doing? I'm out of practice here. See, there's a beautiful slide I was talking about. questions, comments, other things people want to talk about. Now, while you're thinking about your question and typing it into the little box so you can send it to us, remember you only get 200 characters, so don't type too much. But you can send multiple messages. In 2 weeks, we'll be back. We'll do this again. Essentially, we will triage whatever pops up for that week, and then we will review the remaining, currently, 25 issues in WiX 4 to make sure that we do a sweep and we know what's in here and what things we're definitely not doing right now. Any rough timelines on WiX 4? All right. So we're going to sweep through these issues and then get them done. So the purpose of this is to be able to answer Zach's question of when does WiX 4 release? And I preview 1, I want a lot of it's dependent on me getting through some very large items in patching. Cap spending I'm less worried about, but patching could be a very big work item. It's the thing that honestly concerns me the most. I'm working, really want to have preview 1 out in the 3rd quarter this year, right? So like it's already July, August is here, so September. And so really want that to work, or to be out in preview 1 there. I wanted our WiX 4 to come out RTM this year, but if we get any number of bugs on preview 1, then we're going to hit holidays really fast, and I don't know that we're going to hit a confidence level that, yes, we have absorbed all of the issues that people that were able to adopt the preview 1 were able to find. My confidence is not high that we'll be able to get through them. But the goal is to get WiX 4 done as rapidly as possible, to get these features in and completed. Will WiX 4 work well with .NET Publish? So I don't know what you mean by .NET Publish. .NET Publish is just a command you run, and then you can run wix.build after that. There are improvements in the WiX targets to publish other projects that require publishing. And that works. It does not work as well as it does not handle incremental because the publish of the other projects does not handle incremental. So it depends on what you mean by publish in those cases. But it does work much better than WiX 3 does. We've at least made some attempts to make it work.
Is there a .NET MS Build equivalent of .NET Publish? Is it just a publish target?
There is the publish target inside MS Build.
Okay.
But they treat it as a terminal, and they don't have any incremental behavior on it. So if you run publish, and you run publish again, it just does everything again. It's really poorly written.
But
inside MS Build.
Can WiX follow that?
Yes, WiX, and it does. Yes,
okay.
WiX 4 actually does do that. It's challenging, and I did a lot of work trying to make most of those things work. And one thing I know I listed with the things that I know don't work, but yes, it generally works.
I was going to say, Zach, the answer is yes, absolutely.
Well,
an asterisk, and then Rob can go in with all the details.
Anyway, inside MS Build. And the thing is that the word .NET Publish from a command line is, no, you run that, and then you run the WiX build after that, and then it works. Right. So
that's why I asked about MS Build.
I don't know if you can do... I don't know what happens if you .NET Publish on a WiX proj. Like, I don't know what that's going to do.
That's actually interesting.
Yeah, I maybe something we try, but that's...
Well, can you .NET Publish a solution?
Yes, I think so.
Then
I'm pretty... You can't a project. I don't know. I've never tried a solution, I don't think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, because otherwise it's all just package references. So.
The fundamental truth is publish is definitely not deep, seamlessly integrated into all of the other behaviors inside MS Build. So,
as I recall, also there was an announcement on the .NET announcements repo about ways to make publish better.
Oh, I missed that.
I don't. It's vague memory of it. I don't know that it specifically dealt with the implementation issues, but something like defaulting grids and something.
Yeah, that's That's not the problem.
Right.
The problem is you run the publish target, and then you run it again, and it just does everything again. You're like, really?
Incremental's nice. Correctness is more important.
Yeah. So Zach, I mean, you're not wrong. The problem is that publish is wired in really wrong. It's just really weird and it doesn't work. So you build a Wix project, it will allow you to do the publish target on other project references. So you publish them and then you build the Wix and it will end up having the final result. And we've not tried to wire. I'll try it probably to see what happens if you try to do a publish on a Wix project just to see. But generally you should be building the .NET, building the Wix proj, and then we'll see at that.
But after a .NET publish, I mean, this is the problem, right? You need to publish in .NET 5 and above.
Yes.
A normal build is no longer sufficient.
That's exactly right. And that's why I did the work inside Wix targets to handle that case better, because you have to do it. And it has all kinds of problems because they don't think about that problem. Like, it does not seem that they've thought deeply about that problem as you but publish and you're done. And you're like, well, how do you consume all that downstream? And they're like, no, you're done. I'm like, no. We've just started.
Dude, are you suggesting that a Microsoft team didn't think about deployment?
Yeah. Well,
shocking.
Yeah. So and the web projects do kooky thing. I mean, it's not clean, it's not good, but to be fair, we haven't been playing well in the system yet. We will be playing better in Wix 4, and I'm hoping that we can maybe improve from there once we're in the systems and can start pointing at them clearly.
I agree with Zach though. It does seem like publish is, it's in the same vein as what your setup does. So it seems like it would be a good fit, except for implementation problems.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in 4, but we could argue that there should be a difference. That Wix build could go back to more to what compile and link was, and Wix publish is more like what Bob's talking about in the release. So
I wasn't going that far.
I'm randomly jumping into a potential future that may never come true, but it's an interesting thought experiment to say that a Wix build gives you a Wixapple, and then you take that Wixapple as publish, and you get and then as publish you get all the binaries and cabs and everything built up. I don't know. I mean, we can explore that depending on how publish moves forward. Right now, publish feels generally as an afterthought inside the .NET tooling. It's kind of an end thing. You just do that and then you're done. It does not integrate deeply into all the systems, and so that we will have to be working our way through all those problems. Anyway, and it will be better in 4. It's not at all a thing in 3, and you have to do tremendous amounts of backflips to make it work well in 3.
Well, that'll fit in well with the post-build release process.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we filled space. We will be back in 2 weeks. I think that's August 4. Oh gosh, it's August. It's August in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, in 1 week. All right, I give up. There's a lot of code that has to be written. I need to go back to that, plus all the other things that are going. Anyway, get caught up and do those things. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We will do the same thing: triage, Wix 4 review, see where we're at, and every week, hopefully, the list of Wix 4 bugs is getting shorter. At least that's what I'm trying to do by focusing it down. And we will be working our way towards the final release. That's of preview 1 and then beyond. So 2 weeks from now, same place, same time, August 4th. We'll see all you guys then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.